Welcome back to the podcast, my friends. Today's episode is a little different and also deeply connected to the work I've been doing with lawyers for years. I want to talk about identity. Specifically, what happens when the identity you built your career on, the lawyer identity, starts to feel heavy, restrictive, or quietly misaligned. And before you tune out thinking this doesn't apply to me, let me say this. If you've ever thought, why does this feel harder than it should? Or I worked so hard to get here, why am I not happier? Or I don't know who I am outside of this role, this episode's for you. Law is one of the strongest identity forming professions there is. From the moment you decide to apply to law school, your identity begins to narrow. We're taught how to think, how to speak, how to suppress emotion, how to prioritize productivity over intuition, how to earn approval through achievement. Over time, being a lawyer stops being something that you do and starts being something that you are. We see it in the way that people's perceptions and reception of us changes when we introduce ourselves and they learn about what we do. We notice it in the way that they change their vocabulary when they realize that we're a lawyer, and they change the way they talk to us and interact with us. Others' perceptions of us shifts just because of the job. This is not just an internal change that happens, and all of that works together to form this new identity of who we are and not just what we do. And listen, for most of us, that works until it really doesn't. What I see again and again in my work with lawyers is this quiet, unsettling phase where nothing is technically wrong, but something feels deeply off. You're functioning, you're succeeding, you're meeting expectations, but internally there's friction. That friction is often identity dissonance, the gap between who you've been trained to be and who you're actually becoming. And here's the part that most people don't talk about. Outgrowing an identity doesn't usually come with a dramatic breaking point or a rage quit or burning our entire life to the ground and running for the hills. It usually sneaks up on us much earlier and shows up in little ways throughout every day. It comes with irritability toward work that once felt manageable, resentment toward expectations you used to accept, fantasies about escape, quitting, getting fired, or starting over, or a sense that you're performing your life instead of living it. And because lawyers are trained to solve problems quickly, the instinct is often, I need to fix this, I need to make a big move. But identity change doesn't actually work that way. For many of the lawyers that I encounter at this stage of their journey, they are itching to burn it all down quickly, make a big change, go in-house, go to a smaller firm. There's some idea that a big shift is going to change all of this discomfort for them. At the other end of that spectrum, I see a lot of lawyers who secretly say to me, I just wish they would fire me. I just wish I would get fired. I won't have to make a decision. I just want someone to fix this for me. But here's the thing I see again and again. All of those big actions, acting out, trying to get fired, or burning it all down and changing things dramatically, they are simply an outcry. They are a symptom of a bigger problem, and that is the need for a greater identity shift and a realignment with authenticity. Over on my podcast, Lady-ish, where wellness gets unfiltered, I've been exploring this topic more deeply, not just from a mindset perspective, but from a neuroscience and nervous system perspective. Because identity isn't just psychological, it's biological. Your brain is wired to prefer what's familiar, even when it's no longer aligned. So when an old identity starts to loosen, like the reliable attorney, the high achiever, the one who never says no, your nervous system often interprets that as danger. That's why identity change feels so uncomfortable. That's why it feels anxious. That's why it feels destabilizing. even when it's the right thing. In the recent Ladyish episodes, I talk about how to recognize when you've outgrown an identity, why the in between phase feels so damn unsettling, and how to consciously update your identity without burning your life down. And I also say this personally. I knew very early in my legal career that something didn't fit, but it took years to understand that I didn't need to destroy everything I'd built to honor that knowing. The work wasn't in escaping law. It was about reconnecting with myself and what I really needed and wanted. That reconnection is what ultimately allowed me to make more aligned choices calmly, consciously, with integrity, and no matches or gasoline required. So if you're listening and you're an attorney who feels burned out, but maybe not broken, successful, but restless, proud of what you've built, but unsure of who you're becoming, I really encourage you to listen to my latest episodes of Lady-ish. They're not about quitting. They're not about walking away. They're about updating your identity in a way that supports your nervous system and your humanity. There's also a guided identity reset meditation available, designed specifically for people who live in their heads and need a safe, grounded way to reconnect internally. In closing, I simply want to remind you that you are allowed to evolve. You are allowed to change internally without blowing up your career. You are allowed to be more than one version of yourself in this lifetime. I'll link the Ladyish episodes and the Identity Reset series in the show notes if you'd like to explore further. And as always, thank you for being here, for doing this work, and for being willing to question the identities you've been handed, even when it's uncomfortable. I'll see you next time.